Okay, so the last few weeks, we're going to talk about what we've done for the last few weeks. Okay, I'm going to take you back, and we started with constant differences. Remember, we had tables, we had constant differences, and then from there, we did constant rate of change. Okay? And what was another name for constant rate of change? 15?
Slope.
Slope. And then from slope, we learned all about slope, we went from y-intercept. We went from y-intercept, we also learned about the x-intercept, and then we went to slope-intercept equations. Okay? You were able to write an equation if I gave you a table, or if I gave you a graph. And then you were able to graph if I gave you a table or an equation. Okay? So, what we're going to do today is, okay, we're going to apply everything that we know about slope, slope-intercept, but we're going to apply it to a real-world problem. And it's going to have to do with these cheerleaders. But before we go there, I'm going to explain the whole activity, but before we go there, I just want to make sure that you feel comfortable with scenarios and identifying what the slope is and the y-intercept for those scenarios. Okay? And then we'll explain the activity. So, let's go to this. Okay, so this is just a warm-up, just to see how we're doing. Here's the situation. We open a new bank account with $50, and each month you deposit $10. What is the amount in your account as a function of time? So the question I'm asking you is, in this scenario, what is the slope in this scenario? Situation 1, what would the slope be? Jason?
10.
Okay, so the slope is 10. And Jason, what's the y-intercept in this case?
50.
50. And if I asked you to write an equation for this, what would it be?
Y equals 10x plus 50.
Good. Y equals 10x plus 50. Everyone fine with that one? Okay. Now, here, Jason, let me ask you one other question. If you were to graph that, can you tell me what the graph would look like if you were to graph that equation?
Well, on the y-axis, it would start with 50, and then the slope, it would go up by 10.
Beautiful. Very good. Okay, how about this scenario? You're draining a pool that holds 40,000 gallons of water. And every minute, 500 gallons of water are going to flow out. What is the amount of water remaining in the pool as a function of time? So again, I need to know what the slope is in this situation. What do you think the slope is? Sarah?
500.
Okay, everyone agree? 500? Vincent, what do you think?
Negative 500.
Negative 5. Okay, do you see that, Sarah? Okay, so the slope is negative 500. Very good. And Vincent, what would be my y-intercept? 40,000. And what would be my equation?
Y equals negative 500x plus 40,000.
Okay, and let me ask you a question, Vincent. If I asked you to describe the graph for that, what would that be?
It was the y-axis. The first point would be on the 40,000, and the line would decrease by 500.
Very good. At a constant rate. Very good. Now the third scenario. At 4 a.m., the temperature outside is negative 5 degrees. Every hour the temperature rises 4 degrees. What is the temperature as a function of time? Okay, Shane. Okay, what would the slope be in this case?
The slope would be 4.
Very good. And what would be the y-intercept?
Negative 5.
Very good. And what would be the equation in slope-intercept?
Y equals 4 plus negative 5.
Y equals 4?
Negative 4 plus, wait, no, 4 plus negative 5, yep.
Like that? Mm-hmm. Everyone agree? Y equals 4 plus negative 5. Arthur, what do you say?
You forgot to put the x.
Very good. If I don't put that x, what's going to happen with that line? What would that line be?
It's going to be a horizontal.
Very good. Okay, so everyone feels comfortable with these? Okay. So, now let's talk about why I showed you that video. Okay? So, instead of dealing with lines, we're going to have an activity where you're going to help these cheerleaders. Now, these cheerleaders want to go to a national competition. Okay? But there's a lot of expenses to go to a national competition. Okay, there could be airfare, there could be hotels, meals, there could also be new uniforms. Okay? So, a lot of money is needed. So what the cheerleaders want to do is they want to have a fundraiser. And they're actually going to have 2 fundraisers. But we're going to start with this first fundraiser. The cheerleading team is planning to raise money by selling teddy bears for Valentine's Day. They paid $1,500 for a shipment of 300 bears. which they plan to sell for $12 each. They hope to make a profit of at least $1,000, but they know if they don't sell enough beers, they may lose money, okay? They want to explore the relationship between the number of beers they sell and their profit or loss. Okay, so there's some new vocabulary here. So I'm going to go over the vocabulary, and then I'm going to tell you what you're going to do to try to help these cheerleaders out. So what we're going to talk about first is, okay, they paid $1,500 for these 300 beers, okay, which they plan to sell for $12. They want to make a profit, so we have to understand what profit is. So profit is revenue minus cost, okay, but what does that mean, okay? So I'm going to define what revenue is. Revenue is the amount of money they're going to take in when they sell the beers. So if they sold 100 beers, let's say they only sold 100, how much money are they going to take in if they sold 100 of them? Addie?
$0.
I'm only looking for how much are they going to take in. They're selling 100 beers at how much, Ashley?
$1,200.
$1,200, okay? So Abby, you see what we're saying? We're selling 100 beers at 12, so the revenue is $1,200. You're okay with that? Everyone understands? That's what revenue, how much we're going to take in. Well, now what we have to do is we're going to figure out what profit is. A profit is the revenue, the money you take in minus the cost. So can you figure out, what was the cost? How much did they put up front? Renata?
$1,500.
Okay, and so in this example, if they sold 100 beers, how much profit would they make?
Will it actually go negative 300?
Beautiful, it would go negative 300 because this is the money that I'm taking in minus the 1,500 and I get negative 300. Does everyone understand that? Yeah.
So they made less than they originally, they made less money than they originally used to buy the bears?
Well, what happened is they paid $1,500. But if they only sell 100, they're not going to be able to cover their costs. Okay, so they have a little issue here. And that's where you're going to help them. Okay? So, what you're going to do today is you're going to be answering quite a few questions, and they're in your packet. And you're going to first deal with activity 1, which is selling these teddy bears. Okay? And what you're going to do in your group is, again, answer a series of questions. But what you're also going to do is you're going to fill in this table. Okay? And I did put headings here, so you're going to put the headings for this table. You're going to fill that in. And the other thing, besides answering the questions, you're going to graph it. Okay? And the question that you're going to try to answer for them is that they have a goal of making $1,000. Okay? And you're going to try to figure out how many teddy bears they need to sell to make that goal of $1,000. Does everyone understand what to do? Okay, so what you're going to do, don't go on to the second activity. You're only doing the first activity. I'm going to give you 15 minutes, okay, to do this. And you're going to work in your groups. I'll come around, circulate around to make sure you understand it. Okay? Okay, so go ahead. So you can look at the packets and go through that.
This is so cool to me. I like
So it's a question of whether or not the independent variable had a revenue and cost.
Yeah,
All right.
I guess so. So, question 1, what is the independent variable in this situation?
Okay, the independent variable would be how many bears they sell.
That's what I was thinking. Do you guys agree?
Yeah.
So what would that be, revenue? Or
That would just be the number
That would
of
just
bears.
be the number of bears.
What is the dependent variable in this situation?
How much they're selling the bears for?
How much money they earn.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
profit,
Yeah.
basically?
Yeah, profit.
Yeah.
Revenue.
Because of,
What did you say the independent variable is?
The cost of the bears.
I thought it was like the number.
Okay.
All right. So
What?
Or is it the number of bears ordered? The number of bears ordered?
Ordered?
Or purchased?
Purchased. Okay, the number of bears purchased. Okay. So, and what do you think the dependent variable is in this case?
The amount of money they made.
The amount of money they made, which another word is called
Profit.
profit. Very good.
So, the left is number of bears, and the right is the profit.
So, number of bears. I'm writing number of bears sold. I wrote purchased. Because you have to write it up here too. Oh, the dependent variable is the profit.
If they sell 0 bears, then they won't sell anything, and they just wasted 1,500.
So the left side of the table, the heading is the number of
500. And then 1,000. No, 2,100.
For 300?
I think so.
So they need to sell at least 251 bears for it to be profit.
Yeah. The profit would be $12 though. That's not enough.
What did you say, Dan?
They needed to sell over 250 to make a profit.
Do they? Why don't you put labels on that table? Okay, put labels, and then maybe it'll be clearer to you.
Because it's in the middle between 200 and 250 because it's 900 and that would be 1,500.
Wait. Is the slope 600 for this?
But it shaped.
Okay, good. But remember, you have to look at, you might be able to see it clearer when you graph it. But remember, this is the change in Y, but you also have to look at the change in X as well. Because what's slope?
It's how would you define slope? How much you go up or down?
Or even in terms of, in terms
The
of...
constant difference?
Okay, there's a constant difference, but you also have to take into account the number of beers that are sold at that. So if you're saying that there's this, it's going up by 600, but you also have to look at the number of beers that are sold. So you have to, because remember, think of it as rise over run, or change in Y over change in X. Okay? No, what you have here is good.
Would it be like 50 over 600?
The other way around. Because remember, change in Y over change in X. So the other way around.
600 over.
And what would that equal? And you have calculators. You can use your calculators. Okay?
120. 120.
Is it?
I got 12.
Yeah. So look and see if you put...
Oh, I did 50 instead of 5.
Okay.
I did 5.
What so 4 is the profit increase.
The profit wouldn't.
Yeah, the profit increases by 600 every 50 teddy bears. So what do you think the slope is in this?
Slope would be 600.
Would it be 600?
50. I think it would.
Well, the scale is by 50.
Right, but remember, this is your change in Y. This is your change in X. So what would be the slope? No, what you have here is good. The only question I'm asking is, what would the slope be in this case? Okay, this would be... What's the definition of slope?
The rate, like constant rate.
Okay, so what would that be? Now you're saying that it went up 600, but it went up 600 for every, how much?
600 divided by 50.
Beautiful. Very good. Okay?
X-axis would be number of bears, Y-axis
Wait, do you think it's it? No.
On the Y.
Would we start at 0 or
Well, they give us room to go into the negative numbers.
we start at negative?
Yeah.
Yeah, when we start at negative 1,500, then if they sold 0, they're...
Are you having trouble with the scale?
We know which, which goes where? Like, we know that the x-axis is the number of bears sold, and then the y-axis is the profit.
Yes, good.
We're just trying to determine the intervals and how we should space things out.
And where do we start?
If these intervals,
Should space out.
yeah, they do it by 300 to make it easier for you.
Okay. All right, 300 or 600?
Either one, either one.
All right.
And then what would be your intervals for your x-axis?
We were thinking of just using the intervals here,
That's
so
good.
going up by 500, yeah.
So going up by what?
Oh no, not 500, 50.
Good. Good.
So,
Are you skipping line? If you just go by negative 300. Or adding 300.
You having any problems with the scale? No? Okay, good. Very good. Are you okay with the scale? How does, what you use on the scale with intervals?
So we just use like go by 50 or
For the x-axis, that would be fine. And what about for the y-axis?
600,
Okay, want to do that?
right?
Okay.
So
Okay, so everyone at this point seems like you're graphing.
No, but she. Wait, never mind.
okay. Write an equation.
You're still
Oh. I think I.
So, Ms. Jowdy,
Yes.
is this how you would properly set up the graph?
Oh, wait.
Yeah. You do it. Yeah, very good.
So you go up by 600. I went up by 300. Like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So, that's okay. So you write an equation and slope and a set form. Just because you can go or because you can't.
Well, what will your intervals be? What are you doing as far as intervals?
600.
So you're going to go by 600. You might want to, and what would be your, what are you going to start here? What number are you going to start with here? Well, where's the origin? Let's start with the origin. Okay, good. So you could go up by 600. You could skip one and go up by 600. That's perfectly
But
fine.
what about like a negative?
Well, you can do the same thing. Remember, it's the scale's the same, going up, down. It's got to be the same.
But it won't fit.
Well, why won't it fit? Show me.
Because if you skip a line, you won't.
Well, are you starting here at 300, 600, 900? 0 is actually here. Okay.
So you could start here and
Yeah, and you should have it. You should be okay. How are you doing? So you did 9. Good. Okay. Now, if they sold 50, let me look at your table. At 50 was minus 900. Okay. Okay.
Sarah.
At 50, at 100.
At the way bottom.
But you went, okay, your scale is incorrect because here's 0. So you have 300 here. This is 0. So your scale has to be here at starting at 300. So your scale is wrong here. Okay?
Did I just grab?
Beautiful. Beautiful. Very good. Okay.
Slope
Now you're okay with the scale?
Yes.
be right now.
You went 900, 1200. Okay, that's good.
Is anybody on the slope?
How did you do, Tina?
I only had one question. For when you had 0,
Yeah.
I would be drawing.
because it couldn't really do anything.
Okay, because at this point, okay, then you went, where's your table? Okay, so at 150, now 300. Okay, now look what you did. From 0 to 300. That's 300 difference. But then here you made it 600. You don't really have equal intervals here. Okay, so you have to change your scale.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's fine.
to get equal intervals.
So because it's gonna look like that.
It's gonna look like that. But don't you put this one down
Very good.
just here, just to show what it is?
Miss Jowdy, should we just move the numbers here down so it doesn't cover like numbers up here down?
That's fine. Well, you have yours fine. Okay. I'd go ahead and start the questions. Your graph looks good. Okay.
Shane, if you
You know what? I'm just gonna do this down
Yeah,
here.
just it's kind of unfair.
I just kept going.
Wait for us.
Now, let me ask you a question. You're saying that this is your slope?
Yes,
How did you figure that out?
because we're going over by 1.
Well, look at your scale. Over by 1 is how much?
Oh, 50.
Okay. So you went over by 1 and then up by 600. So,
You're 50. 600 over 50.
yes, very good. Okay.
Which would be 12.
Very good.
So it'd be 12.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, how many bears will it... Now, I want you to work with your group, and I want you to figure out how you're going to go about doing it. They want to make a profit of $1,000.
So you plug 1,000 into here.
Well, let's look at your slope-intercept equation. How did you get 600 as your slope?
Because you go up by 600.
Okay, you went up by 600, but you forgot. How many did you go across?
600 over 1.
Over 50. Yeah, this isn't 1 unit. If you look at your scale, you made that 50. So it's 600 over 50.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Okay. So that seems to be a common mistake. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now question 9.
You got it right. Very good. Because I know that you've struggled with that. Very good. Okay, so go ahead.
Okay. Question 9. How many bears will the cheerleading team need to sell to make their goal of at least $1,000 profit?
Do you guys want to use the graph or the equation?
Well, the graph is easier visually, but it all depends on what is easier for you, I guess.
Very good. You got it. Does it make sense?
They want to make a profit of at least $1,000, and by the time they have 250 bears sold, they've already made 15. So,
How you doing there?
So 225 bears.
No, because at 225,
Okay. So you're using the graph to find.
Yeah.
Okay, then how you doing with it?
We're okay.
I came
Yeah.
up with 113.
Okay, but by looking at the graph?
No, by
Well,
using,
using the equation.
I took half of, well, cut down as close as I could the solid point, and then came up to
What about the table? The table might help.
brought over to 1,000. So I thought 225, 1,500.
So what you're saying is you went across.
Wait, what do you?
So what is 60% on the
Okay.
250, 200? That would be like, we could look at the table.
Think about it. Maybe there's a better way to do it.
They could sell 209 bears. 209 times 12 is
Okay, can you sell a beer? A whole beer?
that would be 1,008.
They would try.
So you just do the 9 beers that go over $8.
Right, so how many beers did you come up with? Very good, very good.
Let's this is pretty confusing since we got like a decimal, so let's just
Yes.
Is that correct? Because we plugged it into the equation and it came out as a decimal.
Okay.
You can't sell 31 bears.
Very good.
You have to.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to bring us back as a class in about 2 minutes, okay? So try the best you can, and we're going to talk about how you did with
Wait,
this
you guys have
activity.
to, you have to plug in and do all that.
You could just look at the table.
Yeah, that's what I did.
That's what I did.
Yeah, she said that's fine. So for number 11.
Okay, so
That's just representative in the graph. They would need to sell 250 bears.
okay, so it's just easily seen in the graph.
Do you know, Jonathan will break down.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on, don't write that down because I got it wrong. Breaking even, if we were to look at the graph, this is the profit they
It
made.
would be 125.
Oh,
Yeah.
so we have to. Oh, that makes sense.
Wait,
So
would
it would be somewhere in between 100 and
And
150.
since it's right in the middle, wouldn't it be 125?
Yeah.
125 bears.
What is this slope?
Okay,
What
I
is
think
the
I'm going to bring
meaning?
you back at this point. Okay, we want to see how everyone's doing. So, you filled in this table. Well, what should the headings be for this table? What did you get for the heading? Jenna?
The number of teddy bears and the profit.
So the number of teddy bears and the profit. Did everyone agree with that? And, Jenna, can you tell me what numbers you filled in for the rest of this?
Negative 1,500. Negative 900. 300, 900, 1,500, and 2,100.
Very good. Did everyone get that? Okay, why are there negative numbers in the second column? Why are there negative numbers? Dan?
Because they didn't make as much money as they paid for the teddy bears.
Okay, so they didn't take in enough money. Very good. Okay, then you have to graph, and a lot of problems with the graphing. A lot of problems. It was hard for you to figure out what your scale should be, your intervals. So we had a bit of a problem with this. But what was the first point you graphed? What was the very first point that you graphed? Dean?
Negative 1,500, 0, 0.
Negative 1,500, comma 0, is that what it was?
No, 0, negative.
0, negative, what does that mean? What does that point represent? 0, negative 1,500?
That they haven't sold any teddy bears and they're $1,500 of debt.
Very good. And what was the last point that you graphed, Dean?
300, 2,100.
300, 2,100. Can you put meaning behind 300, 2,100? What does that mean?
They sold 300 teddy bears, giving them $2,100 of profit.
Beautiful. Everyone okay with that? So, if you graphed it, okay, you would probably get some kind of points like this. Everyone get something like that? I know I worked with you because a lot of you had problems with the scale. And what do you notice about the graph? What do you notice about it? Abby?
There's no line arrows at the end.
Oh, that's a mistake. Yeah, there is. Okay. So, but you said it's a line, right? So what kind of a function is this?
Linear.
Linear. And how could you have told from the table? Could you have told that this was
Because it evenly goes up by 600.
very good? The intervals went up by 600. Yes.
Why would there be arrows at the end of the line? Because they only paid for 300.
You're right. Good point. That it probably should have just ended here. So absolutely good point. So I'll just cover that up. Thank you. Yeah. Very good. Okay. So let's come on. Okay. And so some of you had problems writing the equation. Okay. You had problems with slope. What did you end up with the equation? Renata?
Y equals 12x plus negative 1,500.
Yeah, y equals 12x plus negative 1,500. And a lot of you had 600 there, okay? Can you explain why? What happened? Why did you have 600? Sarah?
Because some people thought that because each teddy bear, like the cost of it, goes up by 600, that it would be the sales.
Okay. What didn't they take into consideration? Paula?
The scale.
The scale of the number of beers sold, right? So what, when you did that, what did you end up having to do? What did you?
Reduce it.
Reduce it. It was 600 over 50 and you?
Reduced it to 12 over 1.
Good. Now, next question. How much profit will the cheerleading team make if they sell 275? And I'm going to also ask you how did you determine this, okay? Dan, did you want to answer? Okay. So how much profit did the cheerleading team make if they sold 275 teddy bears?
1,800.
Okay, 1,800. Everybody get that? How did you figure that out, Dan? What tool did you use to figure that 1,800? Did you use an equation? Did you use a graph? Did you use the table? How did you figure that out?
I used an equation.
You used the equation, okay. And what did you do? How did you use the equation? Where did you put this 275 in the equation? Okay, so you said you used this equation, you got 1,800. Where did you put this 275? How did you do this? Someone in his group, can someone help him out with that? Shane?
You'd put the 275 for 12 X's. And
The whole 12x? It replaces the entire 12x?
not the X.
Okay, tell me this again. Where did you put the 275?
In the X, so it'd be 275X plus negative 1,500.
So you replace the 12 with the 275.
Oh, no, I see the problem.
No, okay, what did you
it
do?
would be 12 times 275.
Right, because that X stood for what? In this scenario, what did that X stand for?
The cost of the bear. The cost per each bear.
Did the 12 or the X?
The 12.
Was the cost of the beer. What did the X stand for? What did the X stand for? In this scenario, what did the X stand for? Okay, Matt.
The X stands for how many teddy bears were sold.
Very good. So the 12 stood for the cost of each beer. The X, the quantity that was sold. And what about this Y? What does the Y stand for? In this problem, what did the Y stand for? Dean? Profit. Very good. Okay, now this one was a tough one for you. How many bears will the cheerleading team need to sell to make their goal of at least $1,000? Okay, Maria.
209 bears.
209 bears. Does everyone agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, how did you figure it out?
I used the equation.
Okay, you used the equation to figure this one out. Okay, and I know she's not feeling good, so someone else in the group might have to help her out. Okay, so you used 1,000. Well, where am I going to put this 1,000 into this equation? Can someone in this group help her? Okay, Paolo.
You would put it where the Y would be?
Okay, because the Y stood for what?
The profit.
Good. And you solved for this? And what did you get when you solved for it, Paolo?
We got 208.3 repeating.
Okay. But, can you solve? So what did you do?
So we just rounded it up.
Very good. Is everybody okay with that? Everyone understood? Very good. You did a great job with that activity. So now we're going to go on to the next activity. Okay? Now again, the cheerleaders, we're helping these cheerleaders out. So we're able to tell the cheerleaders that in order to make $1,000, they have to sell 209 beers. Okay? Oh, you know what? There was one question I'm going to go back, because I think there was one question I didn't answer. How many beers will the club need to sell to break even? Okay, this is an important question. My first question is, what does break even mean? What is break even? Nisha, what does break even?
It means to not gain any money or not lose any money.
Right, good. It would cover all the costs. how many bears would they have to sell?
125.
And how did you figure that out?
We like looked at the graph and we looked at where like it hit 0, and then we like.
Okay, so what Nisha's group did is they went back, they looked at the graph, and they looked to see where, I don't have numbers here, but you went back and you looked to see where it would hit 0. What would be another name for that, where it hit 0? In math, what would we call that? What would we call that? Vincent?
The x-intercept.
The x-intercept, very good. Okay, was there any other way that you did this? Was there any other way that you did this? Jen?
You could have used the equation.
You could have used the equation, good. And how would you have used the equation in this instance?
You would have put the 125 in for x.
You would have put, now you're trying to figure out how many bears to break even, okay? So if you have the equation, y equals 12x, okay, how are you going to use that equation to determine break even? And what were you saying, Jen?
I said to put the 125 in for x.
But that's what you're trying to find out.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what you're trying to find out. So what should you do? What should you do in this case? You're trying to figure out how to break even. Nisha?
You put 0 in for y.
You put 0 in for y because it's at the point where you make no profit. You gain nothing, you lose nothing, so you would put that in and you would solve for x. Very good, Nisha. And that's how you would get x equals 125. Did anybody do it any other way? Dan?
Or you could use the table.
You could use the table. What did you do with the table?
Well, in between negative 300 and positive 300 is 0. And then 100 and 150 in between those is 125.
Very good. So for this problem, you could have used an equation, you could have used a graph, you could have used a table. What about the previous question? Okay, how did it work for you, the previous question, when we wanted to find out how many teddy bears? Did the graph work for you? Did the graph work for you to find out the number of teddy bears needing to be sold in order to make $1,000? How did that work for you?
The graph didn't help because it was kind of a very specific number.
Very good. Okay. And you kind of have to estimate. So sometimes one tool might work better than another tool. So very good. Very good. Now we're ready to go on and to help the cheerleaders again. Okay. Now they came up with another activity. So I'm going to have eyes on the board, and then I'll let you work on the packet. Now, in this activity, okay, the cheerleading team decided to plan another fundraiser, but this time they're raffling the gift basket. And what they did is in the gift basket, they have a lot of movie items. And they decided that they're going to charge $2 a raffle ticket. Okay? So, in the basket, they have 4 movie tickets that cost $10.25 each, 12 boxes of candy, a box of popcorn, 1 box of popcorn, 4 pairs of 3D glasses. Okay, sounds like a great gift basket, right? Okay, so they're selling this, okay? And what you're going to have to do, and I'm not going to go through this because it's dealing with profit, revenue, and cost, and we just went through it. So you should know the vocabulary and the meaning. So you're going to look at that. But one thing one smart little cheerleader did was she graphed it. She actually graphed this, okay? And what I want you to do is put a title on it, and I want you to label the axes. I want you to label the y-axis, the x-axis, based on that scenario, okay? Well, another cheerleader had said, I have a different plan. Okay, so the cheerleaders were great in math, so they liked graphing. So the second cheerleader graphed the plan, but we don't have a description for the plan. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at this graph and you're going to describe what plan 2 was. Now, something could have changed, a parameter or component could have changed in the original profit function for this one. So I want you to be able to look at it and describe what's different about this one. Okay? Well, now we have cheerleader 3. Okay? And cheerleader 3 came up with a different plan. And I want you to compare this again with Plan 1 and what's different about it. Okay? So you're going to look at those 3 plans. Now, each group is working at different paces. Okay? Some of you are going to finish earlier than others. If you're done, this is going to be your homework assignment, and if you're done, you can actually start it. Your homework assignment is you are going to construct a Plan 4 for the cheerleaders. So what you're going to do is you're going to describe your Plan 4 for the gift basket. You're going to construct a graph. You're going to write an equation in slope intercept, and you're going to tell me what each one of those components mean. Now, if you don't get this done today, don't worry. That's going to be your homework assignment. Okay? So, does everyone understand what to do? So you're now on the second activity, and we're going to be working with graphing the basket. Okay?